The cold black of space was silent. Stars burned far away like tiny eyes watching everything. In that quiet night of the galaxy, a small human warship drifted near the edge of a neutral star system. It did not move. It did not speak. It simply waited. Many light years away, deep inside the Zerath Empire, a message flashed through their military network. A foreign ship had been spotted. Unknown ID, unknown origin, unknown weapons. For the Empire, this was not a reason for fear. It was a reason to show power. The Zerath Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for more than 200 years. They had destroyed many smaller species. They believed they were the strongest. No one had ever made them bow. So when they saw the small human warship, they laughed. Admiral Vekar, the leader of the nearby fleet, watched the data on his command screen. "It's tiny," he said with a grin. "One ship. No fleet, no colony. It's alone. Perfect for a quick kill." His officers nodded. No one even thought about talking to the humans. The Empire had never asked for permission before. They were the hunters. Others were the prey. 5 destroyers and 1 heavy cruiser moved out of the fleet and started their jump toward the star system. Inside their ships, Zerath soldiers prepared for what they thought would be an easy mission. They joked. They talked about how fast they would destroy the primitive ship. Some even placed bets on how many seconds it would take. But none of them noticed how quiet the human ship was. No beacon, no radio, no distress call. Just silence. The fleet dropped out of warp near the neutral star. The human warship appeared on their sensors. It was dark gray, small compared to the Empire's cruiser. It floated near an asteroid field like a sleeping beast. "Target in sight," said one of the Zerath officers. No movement. "No shields detected." Admiral Vekar smiled. "They are not ready for war. Good. Let's make an example. Fire." The first wave of plasma torpedoes shot through space. Bright blue trails cut the darkness. The Zerath ships shook with the power of their own weapons. In seconds, the torpedoes reached the human ship. Everyone expected a bright explosion. But nothing happened. The torpedoes vanished in front of the ship, swallowed by something invisible. The sensors flickered. The control panels glitched. The Zerath crew stared at their screens. What was that?" One of them whispered. Vekar frowned. "Scan again." The scanners showed no damage. "Not a single scratch on the human hull. It has some kind of shield," the officer said, "but I've never seen anything like this." Before they could react, the human ship slowly turned. It was not fast, not rushed. It moved like something that was not afraid. A thin red light blinked on its front section. A long barrel rotated into position. On the Zerath bridge, silence fell. Even the breathing of the crew felt too loud. "Should we hail them?" One officer asked. Vekar barked a laugh. "Why they are scared? Let's finish this." But deep inside, a small cold feeling touched the Admiral's heart. The human ship was not running. It was not trying to fight. It was waiting. The second wave of missiles launched. This time, they used their most powerful warheads. The sky around the human ship burned bright as the weapons closed in. And then again, nothing. The torpedoes simply blinked out of existence. No flash, no explosion. "Just silence. This is wrong," another officer said softly. "Something is wrong." The red light on the human ship grew brighter. A faint hum echoed through the void. The Zerath sensors started to go crazy. Strange energy spikes appeared on every display. Numbers jumped so fast they became unreadable. Power levels. "We can't measure them," the sensor operator cried out. "It's off the scale." For the first time, Admiral Vekar's grin faded. His hands tightened around the command chair. "All ships prepare defensive formation," he ordered. But it was too late. Inside the human warship, an old AI woke from sleep mode. It scanned the enemy fleet, marked targets, and spoke in a calm, cold voice that carried through the silence of space. "Hostile action detected. Engagement authorized." The Zerath fleet never heard any human voice. They only saw the red glow expand. A single pulse of energy, silent and perfect, crossed the space between ships. The lead destroyer simply disappeared. No fire, no wreckage. It was just gone. Panic spread through the Empire fleet. Alarms screamed. Pilots shouted over the radio. Vekar's voice shook as he ordered a retreat. The human ship did not follow. It only stared with its glowing red eye, like a predator watching its prey run. Far away in the dark command room of the Zerath Empire, Generals received the first report. One human warship. One pulse. One destroyer gone. The message ended with a line of static, and then silence? The galaxy did not know it yet. But this was the day the Empire made its greatest mistake. The Zerath fleet drifted in panic. Alarms flashed red. Sirens screamed inside every ship. No one understood what they had just seen. One moment their destroyer had been in front of them. The next it was gone, like it never existed. Not even debris floated in space. Admiral Vekar stood frozen on his bridge. His black eyes stared at the red light glowing from the human ship. It was not the glow of fear. It was the glow of something far more dangerous, confidence. "Status report," Vekar barked, his voice louder than he intended. "Destroyer 1. "Gone," said the officer, his voice shaking. "We can't find anything, no signal. No wreck, just nothing." A soft static filled the radio. The human ship did not speak. It did not answer any of their scans. It just floated, like a lion waiting for its prey to make a move. Another officer turned to Vekar. "Admiral, what are your orders?" The Admiral clenched his fists. His pride burned inside him. He could not accept defeat. "Not from one tiny ship. They caught us by surprise," he said coldly. "We will crush them." He ordered all remaining ships to power up fully. Shields at maximum. Weapons online. A second wave of attack began to form. Hundreds of plasma torpedoes locked onto the small human vessel. Engines roared. Inside the human warship, the ancient AI watched silently. It measured every Zerath movement, every signal. It had seen many battles. It had fought wars that had broken planets. It was patient. It was calm. The Zerath fleet launched everything. The star system lit up like a storm. Blue light filled the darkness. Missiles screamed through space, racing toward the human ship. The Empire soldiers cheered. For a second, their fear turned into hope, and then the hope died. The plasma torpedoes hit the invisible wall around the human ship. They vanished again, swallowed like stones thrown into the ocean. No sound, no explosion. Just the empty silence of space. "What kind of shield is that?" The Zerath technician shouted. His hands shook on the controls. "We don't have anything close to this power." The Admiral stared. His mind searched for answers, but there were none. The human ship had not fired again. It had not moved. It was waiting. Then something new happened. The red light on the ship changed. It grew brighter, hotter, like the eye of a machine waking up. A strange hum rolled across space. It was not a weapon sound. It was older, deeper, like a storm building behind a wall. "All ships, hold positions," Vekar ordered quickly. "Get ready for counterattack." But the human ship didn't move toward them. Instead, space around it began to shift. Panels on its hull opened. Energy lines glowed like veins of fire. A thin wave of red light spread across the system. Inside the Zerath ships, screens flickered. Navigation crashed. Engines slowed. Half of their weapons went offline. The human ship was jamming everything. "Admiral," an officer screamed, "our systems are failing. We're losing control." In the center of the human warship, the AI's voice echoed through its dark halls. "Level 1 response activated. Target locked. Counterattack in progress." A single line of bright red energy shot from the ship. It moved faster than any missile, faster than any beam. It hit the second Zerath destroyer dead center. In less than a heartbeat, the ship was gone. No fire, no sound, just a flash. And silence. The Zerath fleet was falling apart. Panic filled the radio. "They're killing us! Shields are useless! Retreat! We need to retreat!" But Admiral Vekar could not retreat. His pride would not allow it. "We are the Empire," he roared. "We do not run from insects." His words were strong, but his heart was heavy. He knew something terrible was standing in front of them, something that did not care about their power. The AI scanned the fleet again. One by one, it marked targets in a cold voice. "Target lock cruiser. Target lock destroyer 2. Target lock destroyer 3. The Zerath officers could feel it. They were being hunted. Then, for the first time, the human ship spoke. The voice came through their communications channel like a whisper of ice. Calm, empty, deadly. "Hostile fleet detected. Your actions have been recorded. You have made a mistake." Every officer froze. The voice was not loud. It did not scream. It spoke like it had no fear at all. Leave this system, the voice continued, or be erased. Admiral Vekar's throat went dry. His hands trembled, but he forced himself to stay firm. Fire everything, he shouted, but before his command was complete, the human warship moved. It was fast, faster than anything they had ever seen. One moment it was still. The next it was right in front of their cruiser. 3 more Zerath ships exploded into nothingness. Their death was quiet, clean, cold. The fleet broke. Some captains began to run. Some begged for help. Some just screamed. The admiral's pride turned into fear. The voice returned, colder than before. Last warning. The admiral stared at the red eye of the human warship. He finally understood. This was no weak target. This was a weapon built to end wars. He ordered a retreat. The human ship did not chase them. It just watched. Like a wolf letting the rabbits run, because the wolf knew it could end the hunt any time it wanted. Far away, in the heart of the Zerath Empire, the High Council received the report. 4 ships gone. No human losses, 1 ship, 1 voice. The Empire had never felt fear before, but now, it had begun. Far away from the battlefield, deep inside the shining halls of the Zerath Empire's central command, the air felt heavy. The war room was quiet. Dozens of generals and high-ranking officers stared at the large holographic display in the center. It showed only 1 red mark and the human warship, and a list of destroyed Zerath ships. 6 ships gone. 1 human ship. 0 damage. It didn't make sense. The council chamber had always been a place of strength. This was where the Empire planned wars. This was where other species were crushed. But now, the silence in that room felt like fear. High General Sarek broke the silence. "This is impossible," he said. "No ship can do this alone. Not even ours." His voice was deep, but it carried a thin edge of panic. He was not used to saying those words. Another general, old and scarred from many wars, shook his head slowly. "The reports are clear. They didn't even fire more than a few times. They didn't move much. We couldn't even touch them." Admiral Vekar stood near the center of the room. His face was pale. His voice was cold. "I was there," he said. "They erased 6 of our ships like they were nothing. Our strongest shields meant nothing. Our missiles vanished. And then they spoke." A murmur spread through the room. "Spoke?" "Yes," Vekar said softly. "They said we made a mistake." The Emperor's advisor stepped forward. "And then?" "They let us run," Vekar replied. Like hunters watching scared prey. The generals exchanged worried looks. In the Empire's long history, no one had ever said such words to them. No one had dared. And no one had ever had the power to let them live. The Emperor entered the chamber. Tall, strong, proud. His golden armor reflected the dim blue light of the war room. He looked at the display with narrowed eyes. "So," he said slowly, "a single human ship humiliated our fleet." The room went silent. Everyone lowered their heads. "I want to know," the Emperor continued. "What is this ship? What are humans?" The science officer stepped forward. "Humans are new. We only know a little. They live far beyond our usual territory. A small civilization, no large colonies, no known fleets. Nothing special. Nothing special," the Emperor repeated. His voice was cold as ice. "And yet they have a ship that can erase my fleet in minutes." The scientist swallowed. "We don't know how." The Emperor turned to Vekar. "Why didn't you destroy it?" Vekar's voice cracked. "We couldn't. We hit them with everything." They didn't even flinch. The Emperor's golden eyes burned with anger. Not because of the loss, but because of the shame. They dared to embarrass us. They dared to stand against the Empire. The room grew even colder. General Sarek stepped forward carefully. "With respect, my Emperor, this is not a normal enemy. This is something else. If we attack without understanding, we may lose much more." But the Emperor had lived his whole life believing in one thing: power. He did not accept weakness. He did not accept fear. "Then we will show them what real power looks like," the Emperor said. "We will crush them. We will bring a fleet so large the stars themselves will fear us." The generals exchanged uneasy glances. They had seen the reports. They knew what that 1 ship had done, but no one dared to speak against the Emperor's decision. Across the galaxy, the story of the destroyed fleet began to spread like fire. Soldiers whispered in dark hallways. Traders carried rumors between worlds. Captains who had once spoken proudly of the Empire now spoke in quiet voices. Some said the human ship was a ghost. Some said it was a guard's weapon. Some said it was a warning. In the lower decks of one battle station, two young soldiers talked in whispers. "Did you hear what happened near the neutral star?" one asked. "Yeah," the other answered. "They say it was just one ship. One ship that killed 6 of ours. Do you think we can beat something like that?" The silence between them said everything. Fear was a new feeling in the Empire. It spread like smoke. It moved through ships, through outposts, through entire worlds. Meanwhile, in a hidden control room, human intelligence agents quietly listened to intercepted Zerath transmissions. The AI of the warship sent a short message back to Earth Command. "Contact made." Empire responded with hostility. Demonstration successful. Awaiting orders. The human command room was calm. No cheers, no panic. They knew this day would come. Back in the Zerath capital, the Emperor stood at the highest balcony of his palace. He looked out at the endless stars. He clenched his fists. "They think they can scare me," he whispered. "They are wrong." The order was given the same night. The largest Imperial fleet ever assembled began to form. Hundreds of cruisers, thousands of smaller ships, weapons that had crushed entire empires before. The Emperor's last words to his generals echoed through the night. "No one humiliates the Zerath Empire. We will bring the full fire of the stars upon them." But deep inside, some of his generals already knew. This was not going to be a normal war. The humans had given a warning. And no one in the galaxy had ever seen what happened to those who ignored a human warning. As the fleet prepared to move, the red eye of the human warship stayed fixed on the stars, waiting, watching. The storm was coming. The stars above the neutral system burned quietly. Asteroids floated slowly through the void. The small human warship remained where it had always been, still silent and patient. It did not run. It did not hide. It simply waited. Across the galaxy, the Zerath Empire was moving. Their largest fleet in history crossed the stars. The Emperor had ordered a final strike. No more warnings, no more delays. The fleet was so big that its jump signatures were seen on multiple star charts at once. Hundreds of cruisers, thousands of destroyers, carriers, dreadnoughts, and stormships. The sky would belong to them. That was what the Empire believed. Admiral Vekar was not proud anymore. He stood on the flagship's bridge with a hard face. He had seen what one human ship could do. Now he was part of the fleet that had to face it again. Deep in his heart, fear burned like a quiet flame. "Admiral," said the comms officer, "we will arrive at the target system in 60 seconds. "Good," Vekar answered. But his voice was empty. The countdown ticked away. 3, 2, 1. The entire Imperial fleet jumped out of warp at the edge of the star system. Dozens of suns of engine light filled the black. And there it was, the same small human warship, floating near the asteroid belt. So small, so alone. "It's just one ship," said one of the captains through the radio. "This will be fast," but Vekar didn't speak. He remembered the red light. He remembered the silence. The Emperor's face appeared on the main display. His golden eyes burned with anger. "This is the moment," he declared. "Erase them. Show the galaxy our strength." Thousands of weapons came online at once. Missile bays opened like steel flowers. Plasma cannons charged. Energy beams glowed. The Zerath fleet aimed everything at the one ship. The human warship didn't move. The first wave of fire launched. The sky exploded into color. Plasma missiles, railgun slugs, and everything they had. It was enough to turn a small moon into dust. The weapons reached the human ship and disappeared, just like before. No explosion, no light, no sound, just nothing. Inside the Zerath flagship, panic started to grow. "This can't be real," an officer whispered. "Scan results?" Vekar asked. "Shield still at full," came the reply. "No damage, no heat." It's like they weren't even hit. Then the human ship moved. Slowly, calmly, like a giant waking from a nap. Panels across its hull slid open. Red light flowed out like blood through veins. The single glowing eye at its front burned brighter than any star. And then space behind the ship began to twist. At first, the Zerath thought it was a sensor glitch. Then they saw it with their own eyes. Hundreds of dark shapes emerged from behind the human ship. Small, sharp, perfect. Drones, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Each one glowing with the same red light. "Oh no," whispered one captain. The drones spread out silently, surrounding the Zereth fleet like a tightening net. No sound, no radio chatter, no visible energy trail, just quiet movement. The Zerath fleet, which had once looked like a storm, now looked small. The human AI spoke again. "You ignored the warning." Its voice echoed through every ship at once, calm and cold. "You will now face the consequence." The drones moved. They didn't fire missiles. They didn't scream into battle. They just blinked forward like shadows. In seconds, the first Zerath destroyer was cut in half by a clean red beam. The second exploded without sound. The third simply vanished into dust. "Open fire!" Vakar roared. The Zerath fleet fired everything they had. Beams, torpedoes, storms of energy. But nothing worked. The human drones danced between the shots. The warship itself still hadn't moved far. It didn't need to. The drones were enough. Zerath ships died one after another. It wasn't a battle. It was a quiet execution. On the Emperor's private channel, screams filled the air. "Our defenses are breaking. We can't target them." Shields down. "They're inside our formation." The Emperor shouted orders. "Fight, do not retreat." But deep down, every captain knew they were losing. No, they had already lost. The human warship finally fired its main cannon. One red beam, silent, smooth, perfect. It passed through 5 Zerath cruisers like they were made of paper. No flame, no debris, only silence. Inside the flagship, Admiral Vakar's face turned pale. His crew screamed around him. He whispered almost to himself, "We never had a chance." The human AI spoke once more. "This is your last moment." Then, like a falling star, the fleet began to die faster. Whole lines of ships blinked out in flashes of red. Carriers cracked. Dreadnoughts burned from the inside. In just minutes, what had been the greatest Zerath fleet was nothing more than broken pieces floating in the dark. The Emperor watched in disbelief. His fleet, his pride, was being erased by one ship and its silent army. "Retreat!" Someone screamed, but the drones stopped. The red light dimmed. The human AI fell silent again. The Zerath survivors floated in space like ghosts. Only a handful of ships remained. The Emperor's voice, once so strong, now shook like a dying flame. On every surviving ship, a message appeared on their screens. It had only 3 words: "We warned you," and then... The human warship and its drones turned away. They didn't chase. They didn't finish the last ships. They left. The Zerath had come to destroy. But they were the ones who had been destroyed. The silence that followed was louder than any explosion. The battlefield was silent now. The great Zerath fleet, once called the Storm of Stars, and no longer existed. What remained was broken metal floating in empty space. The fire of burning ships flickered weakly, like dying candles. The human warship drifted through the wreckage slowly, like a ghost passing over a graveyard. Around it, the red drones moved in perfect silence. They did not fire anymore. They did not chase the survivors. The battle was over, and the Zerath had lost. On the last surviving Imperial flagship, Admiral Vakar stood at the shattered bridge window. His crew was gone. Sparks fell from broken wires. He could still see the small human ship in the distance, glowing red like an eye in the dark. It didn't look like a war machine. It looked like a judge. The Emperor's voice came through the broken comm channel. It was weak. It didn't sound like the same man who had once shouted orders across the stars. "Vakar," the Emperor whispered. How is this possible?" Vakar said nothing. He had no answers. His fleet, their empire's pride, was erased in minutes. Not by an army, not by a planet-destroying weapon, by one single human warship. In the Zerath capital, panic spread like a disease. Emergency signals poured in. The great fleet was gone. Thousands of officers were dead. Entire star systems fell into silence as their defenders vanished. For the first time in generations, the people of the Empire felt something they had never felt before: fear. The Emperor stood alone in his command room, surrounded by advisors who didn't dare speak. His hands shook. The stars outside looked colder than ever. His mind tried to understand. How could this happen? How could the hunters become the prey? Then it came. A single signal. Every Zerath screen flickered. Every display across the Empire, ships, stations, colonies, went black. And then a red symbol appeared, a simple glowing circle, the mark of the human warship. A voice followed, calm, cold, human. This is a message to the Zerath Empire. We did not come for war. You brought war to us. The voice echoed through every corner of their empire. Billions listened in silence. You attacked first. You ignored the warning. You chose to burn the sky, and now, you have seen what happens when humans fight. The Emperor clenched his fists, but his heart shook. He couldn't stop this voice. No one could. We will not destroy you, the voice continued. But understand this, if you attack again, if you threaten our kind again, there will be nothing left to save. Images flashed across the Zerath screens. The burning fleet, the red drones, the human ship floating like a shadow. It wasn't a threat. It was a fact. The voice spoke its final words. War is not our wish. But if you bring war to us, we will end it. Then the signal ended. The red circle disappeared. The silence that followed was heavier than any weapon. The Emperor fell back into his chair. His golden armor no longer felt like power. It felt like a cage. Around him, his generals lowered their heads. No one spoke. The Empire, the proud and untouchable, had been crushed in front of the entire galaxy. Across the stars, other species who had feared the Zerath watched the news. They saw how the invincible Empire had been defeated by one human ship. They saw how the hunters had run, and they began to whisper a new name with awe and fear: humans. In dark space, the human warship turned slowly. Its drones followed like silent shadows. It did not send more messages. It did not show more power. It simply left the battlefield behind. The human AI's final message to its home command was short. Threat neutralized. Empire will not attack again. Returning to silent watch, Earth Command did not celebrate. There were no cheers, no fireworks, just quiet nods. For humanity, survival was not about pride. It was about sending a message. Never provoke a human warship. Back on the shattered Zerath flagship, Admiral Vekar watched as the human ship jumped into the void. His voice was a whisper. They gave us mercy, he said. We never gave mercy to anyone. No one answered him. The stars were quiet. Days later, the Zerath Empire signed a treaty of surrender. Not because of occupation, not because of invasion, but because they understood the truth. Power was not always loud. Sometimes real power spoke softly. And the whole galaxy listened. And so the legend spread. In bars, in military bases, in secret networks across hundreds of worlds, people told the story of the ship with the red eye. The ship that destroyed an empire in silence. Some called it the ghost ship, some called it the judge, but most whispered its true name, a human warship. The galaxy would remember this day forever. Not because of a great war, but because of the moment an empire made its greatest mistake, and the humans answered.